Okay, so in this video, we'll be talking about some recent reports concerning Sonja Morgan.
Right, particularly a financial dispute she was involved in.
Exactly. There's this situation with Sonja and an HVAC company. They did some work at her old townhouse in New York City.
Expert Appliance Group, Inc. That's the company.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, after they did an installation, Sonja paid them almost $20,000.
Paid them through a payment service, right?
Yeah, that's what the reports say. But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
The company later reported that the bank actually reversed the entire payment.
Reversed it, like took the money back after they'd already received it.
Exactly. The bank apparently told Expert Appliance Group there was, quote, a dispute about a transaction.
But did Sonja say anything to the company?
Well, that's the thing. The company stated they got no complaints and no explanation directly from Sonja beforehand. From their perspective, the money was just gone from their account.
Wow. That sounds incredibly frustrating for a business. Just poof.
Yeah. And they apparently found dealing with the bank's claims department pretty disrespectful.
I can imagine.
They felt the bank reversed the payment based only on one-sided statements without even asking us or looking at documents.
So the business feels completely left out of the loop, basically.
Pretty much.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more. The company, they tried to get in touch with Sonja after the money disappeared.
They did. They said they tried calling, emailing. Initially, no response.
Right. But eventually contact was made.
Once they connected through maybe different channels, Sonja's side came out.
And what was her take on it?
She insisted she'd paid them. And she said that what happened afterward was entirely out of her control.
Out of her control? How so? Did she elaborate on that?
The reports suggest she felt if the owner had just contacted her differently, maybe not through the standard channels they first tried, she would have sorted it out immediately.
So it sounds like maybe a communication breakdown was a big part of it, from her perspective.
It seems like that's part of her explanation, yeah. A miscommunication about how to handle whatever issue led to the bank dispute.
Okay. So did the company ever get their money back?
Yes. The reports do confirm the money was returned to Expert Appliance Group. So financially, it was resolved in the end.
That's good news for them, at least. And this wasn't the only financial-related thing mentioned recently, was it? There was something else.
Right. There was also a mention of a previous situation. Sonja apparently settled a $1,000 tab at a restaurant, Tucci, after some initial issue there, too.
Okay, so another instance, though smaller scale.
Yeah. Okay, next update. It's about Aaron Phypers, Denise Richards' husband. Seems like a complicated financial situation.
Yeah, it really is. The main thing is there's this Creditors Adjustment Bureau. They're reportedly trying to garnish Denise Richards' wages to settle a pretty big debt owed by Aaron Phypers and his wellness company.
How big are we talking?
Well, the original loan was $190,000 back in 2019, business loan. Had an 11% interest rate. He apparently defaulted, and now, with interest, it's climbed to $228,000.
Wow. Okay, so why go after Denise's money? What's the connection?
So the creditor's lawyer is arguing, based on the sources, that because they got married in 2018, before the loan, the debt was incurred during the marriage. So they're saying it's a community property debt.
So his debt becomes partly her responsibility, legally speaking.
That's the argument they're making, yeah. Based on that, they want a court order to, and this is a quote, attach the wage earnings and other assets in Denise's name or control.
So trying to get the money any way they can, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Tapping into assets that might be considered joint marital property.
But Aaron's fighting this.
He is. His lawyer's response, according to reports, raises a few points. First, they argue there's no admissible evidence presented proving they're legally married for the purposes of this debt collection.
Interesting angle. Challenging the marriage itself. They also argue there's no solid proof their assets are community property. And they brought up the idea of private agreements.
It's like
what would it called transmutation? His lawyer mentioned it as a possibility.
What does that mean here?
It's basically a legal way spouses can agree to change the status of property during the marriage. Like, say, income earned might normally be community property.
Right.
But a transmutation agreement could state that, nope, this specific income or this asset belongs only to one spouse, even if it came in during the marriage. It's a way to separate things legally.
Gotcha. So they're saying maybe Denise's earnings are protected by some agreement like that.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. And there's another point. They're accusing the creditor of not giving Denise proper notice.
Notice about what?
About the attempt to go after her assets. They claim this lack of notice stopped her from being able to present her own evidence about why community property rules might not apply, or if there are exceptions. And, just to be clear, the reports say Denise had nothing to do with the original loan.
Correct. Sources seem consistent that she wasn't involved when Aaron and his company took out the loan initially.
Was there an attempt to settle this before?
Yeah, apparently. Aaron doesn't deny he stopped making payments, reportedly due to lack of funds.
Mm-hmm.
There was a settlement deal in 2023, supposed to involve 5-figure monthly payments until early 2025. But the creditor accuses him of not sticking to that deal.
And this isn't his only legal issue right now.
No. The sources also mentioned he got sued back in November. Something about fraud and breach of contract related to his wellness facility.
So quite a bit going on. Next update we have about Charlie Zakkour. He's on that upcoming Bravo show, Next Gen NYC.
There's a report placing Charlie Zakkour at the scene of a really disturbing crime in Soho, New York.
And the crime itself sounds absolutely terrible from the descriptions.
It does. The reports say a man, John Wolfs, was arrested. He's accused of kidnapping and torturing a crypto millionaire, Michael Valentino Teofrasto Carturan.
Torture.
Yeah, the details mentioned involve things like a chainsaw, electric wire.
Yeah.
Apparently over weeks trying to extort crypto passwords. Really grim stuff.
Okay. So where does Charlie Zakkour come into this? How is he connected?
He was reportedly just seen in the background when the arrest was happening, outside a townhouse on Prince Street in Soho.
Seen in the background. Was there any reason for him to be there?
Well, an insider apparently told the news outlet that Charlie sometimes crashes at that particular townhouse. Stays there sometime.
Crashes there. Okay, that's unexpected.
Very. But it's really important to stress, and the sources are clear on this, Charlie reportedly had nothing to do with the crime itself. He's not implicated in the kidnapping or torture. He was just present at the location when the police activity was going down.
Still, it's quite jarring to see a reality TV person even tangentially connected to a scene like that.
Absolutely.
Next update we have about Lexi Ioannou. She was on Juiciest's podcast talking about her former stepfather, Tommy Manzo. This sounds like it gets into some heavy family history.
It really does. Lexi opened up about her relationship with Tommy Manzo, described it as uncomfortable, talked about feeling fear, manipulation, stuff that's clearly affected her for a long time.
And a big part of it revolved around personal belongings, heirlooms.
Yeah, that was a major point. Lexi claimed Tommy held onto her childhood heirlooms for like 10 years, and she felt he was using them almost like collateral. She described it as stemming from what she called a weird obsession he had with her.
That sounds incredibly difficult, especially for a child.
She mentioned his behavior being very affectionate in a way that made her uncomfortable, partly because her own parents weren't like that, and she felt pressured, told to show him affection out of respect. Creates a really confusing situation. Lexi talked about feeling failed by family members, specifically mentioning Lauren Manzo, about getting these items back from a garage sale.
What was Lexi's side of the garage sale story?
She said she told Lauren she needed to go herself after friends were maybe suggested first. She described seeing really irreplaceable things there, like her grandmother's dollhouse.
Oh, wow.
And feeling like the people there were sort of protecting Tommy, protecting the items, and wouldn't help her get her stuff back, like they were refusing her requests.
But Lauren Manzo pushed back on that account.
She did, yeah, on TikTok. Lauren said she didn't have access to the house, doesn't have a relationship with Tommy, wasn't allowed there. She claimed she did go to the sale herself, but got kicked out because it was private property.
Okay.
She said she couldn't exactly break in, that she tried everything she could, and that she has text messages to prove she wasn't ignoring Lexi. So definitely two different views on what happened and what efforts were made.
And Lexi shared something intense about a phone call from him right before he went to prison.
Yeah, that was quite a story. She said Tommy called her the week before he was due to report. She didn't answer. Said she just froze in fear, partly because there was an FBI restraining order. She thinks he was calling about the items, the heirlooms. But now, looking back, she feels so angry she didn't pick up. Wishes she had.
That's complicated.
Very. She also talked about feeling manipulated by him after her mother's divorce, like he was trying to keep a relationship with her. Said she lived in fear for so long, worry about upsetting family or provoking him if she spoke out.
Did she find any sense of closure?
Some, it sounds like. She mentioned watching his trial gave her closure. Seeing him in the courtroom, she said, made her realize she didn't need to fear him anymore. maybe he should fear her. But she also admitted, confronting all this, talking about it, still feels uncomfortable.
And she felt let down by her family through it all.
That came across strongly. Feeling abandoned, like nobody offered comfort even though they knew what was going on. She felt kind of caught in the middle, dealing with the fallout from Tommy on her own for years. Just sounds really isolating.
Next update we have about Brit Eady. Seems she hosted an event that didn't go over well.
Right, yeah. There's this country club classic event she hosted for her shapewear line, featured in episode 12 of season 16. Reports and viewer comments online were not kind. Some called it the worst event in the show's history.
Oof, that's harsh. Did Brit explain what went wrong on the show?
She did offer her perspective, yeah. She mentioned a misunderstanding about the food, like who was supposed to get actual food versus just drinks, and she also pointed a finger at the event planner, saying they arrived late.
Okay, blaming the planner. But the planner, or decorator, has responded.
Yes, the decorator. Bure, who goes by Bella, CEO of Infinity Events ATL. She was the events decorator, and she took to Instagram to give her side.
And what did Bella, the decorator, say?
Well, she pushed back hard. First, she clarified her role. She was the decorator. She fulfilled those duties. She said she was not responsible for food service at all. According to Bella, Brit herself designed the menu from selections, and the restaurant at the venue was the one handling the food, providing it, serving it, not Bella.
What about the claim she was late?
Bella directly contradicted that, said she and her team were actually early, but, she explained, they kept getting moved around because of production needs, lighting setups, other things. Partly because the venue wasn't private, it was still open to the public.
Right, firming constraints.
Exactly. Things outside her control. She felt they actually overdid their job given the circumstances.
And the food issue, the lack of it or the type?
Bella addressed that too. Said Brit chose to serve only small bites, specifically because of budget constraints, and Bella claims she has a message from Brit confirming this. She stressed again, she had zero control over food quantity or service. She's not a planner, not a caterer, just the decorator.
Did Bella mention anything else?
Yeah, she also brought up payment. Said she hadn't even been fully compensated for her work, and that there was still a dispute over the remaining balance owed to her.
Okay.
So Bella's main point was making that distinction clear. Event decorator versus event planner. She feels Brit blurred those lines and unfairly blamed her for things that weren't her responsibility, like the food problems.
Next update we have about Paige DeSorbo from Summer House. Looks like she shared some thoughts in a recent interview about the show and life stuff.
Yeah, she talked about watching the past season. It is hard sometimes, reliving moments, but also very validating.
Validating how?
She was happy viewers seem to pick up on how close she is with Ciara and Amanda. Feels like that friendship sometimes gets lost when the cast is so big.
Okay.
She said watching it back gave her a sense of peace because she knew her own truth, what actually happened during filming. She talked about that weird reality TV thing, processing stuff as it happens, then having to go through it again months later when it airs. Called it like joint therapy with the fans.
Huh. Interesting way to put it. What about her plans for this summer? Sound like a change.
Big change. She said she's excited because it's her first summer in the Hamptons being single in a while, specifically single in her 30s, which she noted feels drastically different from being single in her 20s.
So, different priorities in dating.
Seems like it. She mentioned, now she doesn't really care if a guy wants to stay out super late with her friends. Actually, she'd prefer if he didn't want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, looking for someone who just meshes easily with her life, understands the whole reality TV thing, though maybe not necessarily someone on reality TV.
Got it. Did she say anything about the reunion?
She did.
Yeah.
Said it was one of the first reunions where they actually had a lot of laughing breaks. Genuinely funny moments from the season were discussed, not just constant drama.
That sounds refreshing for a reunion.
Yeah, she said Andy Combs laughed so hard he had to tell them, okay, guys, let's get serious now.
Any specifics on cast members at the reunion?
She joked Jesse Solomon probably laughed the least. But she also said he didn't seem as defeated as Wes Wilson looked last season. Paige admitted she still feels bad about how hard she yelled at Wes last year. And she noted Jesse actually talked more at this reunion compared to Wes last year.
What about the newcomer, Lexi Wood? How did Paige think she handled things?
Paige had really nice things to say about her. Praised how Lexi handled her first season, especially the drama with Jesse. Called her beautifully so graceful. Lexi stated how she felt was very emotionally intelligent. Paige basically concluded Lexi has nothing to lose by being authentic and thinks she's going to be fine navigating this world. So if you want to keep up with all this, make sure you subscribe to RealT TV.
Yeah, and hit that bell icon. You don't want to miss our next breakdown.
Thank you for watching this video. See you tomorrow.